What is going on, Concussion Discussion listeners? Thank you guys for joining in. I appreciate it. However you guys are tuning in, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcast, iTunes, you name it, we're on everything. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Austin Sherlock. I appreciate you guys. Big weekend to talk about some fights. Kind of slow on the current events, but big weekend of fights, and of course there is not going to be some UFC fights without a little bit of drama. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into kind of a slow weekend, to be honest, when it comes to current events, but that's okay because a lot of the fights had plenty of drama to carry this thing. So I hope you guys had a decent Memorial Day weekend. Personally, I hate this weekend. It's a sad weekend. But I know everyone got, or most people got a long weekend, so I'm happy for that. The girlfriend and I and the dogs went camping. It was her first time and their first time, so that was cool. They enjoyed it. A dog got into some poison ivy or something, or got stung by bugs, or had some sort of allergies, but, we figured it out. Then it rained a little bit, but it was fun, man, so I hope your guys' weekend was just as enjoyable as mine. So enough rambling on about life. Let's get into what this podcast is all about. Let's talk some mixed martial arts. So this past weekend on Friday we had Bellator 200, and then on Sunday we had UFC Liverpool. So I'm going to talk some of the recap from Bellator 200 and then get into UFC. So Phil Davis, he fought Linton Vassell. Linton Vassell was the hometown guy. It was in London. And I picked Davis to win. Davis got it done via first round KO. Hit him with a brutal head kick. But it was good to see. I'm a Phil Davis fan, but it was good to see him not rely on his wrestling too much and let some of his stand-up go. So Davis gets that done. I was right again. I'm telling you guys, please listen to me. I'm trying to make you guys some money. And you had MVP Michael Venom Page versus Dave Rickles. MVP got it done. I think I predicted a second round KO, a brutal KO, and it was in the second round indeed. It was brutal indeed. Venom Page hits him with I think it was a right hand, and opens up Rickles right above his eyebrow, and opens him up real bad, and Rickles says, I can't see, looks to the ref, says, I can't see, and he knew it was over, and they called it right there. So MVP, I think he is 8-0 in Bellator, 11-0 as a professional, so good to see that guy doing good things, and he was a hometown guy as well, so good to see a hometown guy win. And you had Gegard Mousasi. He fought Rafael Carvalho. And, I predicted Mousasi to get a third round TKO. Well, Mousasi goes in and decides to wrestle the champ, Rafael Carvalho, and takes him down, gets to full mount, smashes him pretty well, and gets the first round TKO. So, Gegard Mousasi, he is 2-0 in Bellator right now, and now he's a middleweight champ. After this fight, he called out Rory McDonald, who's the 170-pound champ. I really want that fight to happen. I would probably pick Gegard right now in that fight, but I'm a huge Rory fan, and if Rory could be a two-time weight division champ there, I would love that. So maybe there's something there. I know Scott Coker, the president of Bellator, doesn't love the idea, but maybe someone can change his mind. Maybe some fans like me, the media, can get behind it and, maybe get that fight going. So as far as the ones that I made picks for, that is my recap of those. So I was 3-0 for my Bellator 200 picks. Good card. Really, really good card. Bellator stepping it up, man. They're getting some of these UFC guys that, some of them are old vets, and then some of them like Rory McDonald and Gegard Mousasi. they're just studs and they want a change of scenery. So, the Bellator's kind of getting rid of that stigma that they've had for so long of just getting old, washed up UFC guys. So good for them, man. I'm a huge Bellator fan, and they definitely deserve their due after that great fight card they put on. Then just moving on to UFC Liverpool. Man, this is a decent card. A little bit lackluster, but I'll just cover some of the talk about some of the fights I covered in the last episode. So Amir Khani, he beat Jason Knight by decision. I think it was split decision, but I definitely had Amir Khani winning the second and third rounds just because of his takedowns. He wasn't very active on top, but the way that the scoring is, he got the win. It sucks for Jason Knight because I'm a Jason Knight fan, man. This is his third loss in a row, but he's had some decent wins. He's an exciting guy, but I don't know what the UFC... You can't release him. He's too exciting, but I don't know what the UFC does with him. Amir Khani, I want him to be more active. I think everyone does. He burst on the scene really in 2014, 2015, and a lot of guys fell in love with him. But then he just, he has one fight, a year, whether it's injury. I don't know that, but I don't know what's keeping him sidelined for so long. But I would love to see that guy fight more often. And he was talking shit to Jason Knight the whole time, which is hilarious. And he called out Cub Swanson, which I thought was a terrible move. Cub has a fight coming up, UFC 227 against Mirsad Bektik. So I really don't know who's going to win that fight, but I thought that was a terrible call out. Please don't call out Cub Swanson if you're trying to build a name and build yourself up, because I don't want him to kill his hype too fast. You had Neil Magny. He looked good. Got the TKO against Craig White. And then he called out Kamaru Usman. I don't like that call out from Neil Magny. I think Usman probably wrestles him to death. But you know what? That's who Magny wants. So maybe that happens, which kind of leads me into the big drama. So Darren Till, ranked number 8 in the world, against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who is ranked number 1, obviously underneath the champion Tyron Woodley. So Stephen Thompson, he's fought Woodley twice. The first one was a draw. The second one was a split decision loss to Woodley. But he remains number 1. He beat Jorge Masvidal. So he's keeping his number 1 ranking, defending off these top contenders. And Darren Till, kind of unknown, and then he comes in and they give him, Cowboy Donald Cerrone, and he starts his Cerrone, and then so I didn't like this fight for Till. I picked Till to win the fight. If you listen to the last episode, I picked Till to win the fight, but I did not like the UFC's mentality of making this fight. I don't like young fighters. He's only 25 years old. He's young. His stock is high. Everyone's talking about him. He's the big buzz. I said give him one more before this Wonderboy Thompson fight, and I still stand behind that. I still believe that wholeheartedly. But Till went in there and got it done. He got the unanimous decision win against Wonderboy Thompson. So a few things about this fight. One, it's in Liverpool. It's in Darren Till's hometown. Even if you're not an MMA fan, you have to know that if there's judges involved, the judges are not going to be against the rival, the guy coming into enemy territory's favor. They're going to be in favor of the hometown guy. It's not a brain buster. So each round was very, very close, except the 5th, which I'll get into. But each round, the 1st through the 4th, could have gone either way. And a lot of the MMA media, fighters, they're getting heated and posting on Twitter and Instagram, and they're upset about, some of them are upset about the decision. Some people had it, Wonderboy 3-2. Some had it Till 3-2. I had it Till 4-1. but I could see definitely a 3-2, or I could see for Till, or I could see a 3-2 for Wonderboy Thompson. It was a very, very weird fight. Till kept the pressure on Wonderboy the whole fight, and Wonderboy was elusive, as he does, but he was landing the more effective shots. So if you're a judge, it really depends on you what is more valuable. Is it the big shots? Is it total strikes? Is it the pressure? There's really no telling. There's no, it's not computers that are deciding this, it's human beings. I agree with the judge's decision. And then in the fifth, I was actually listening to so Joe Rogan, he does a Fight Companion. If you guys haven't listened to it, it's great. He did it with Eddie Bravo and Brendan Schaub, all three guys I admire a bunch. I love their opinions and their takes on fighting in the world of mixed martial arts. I love all those guys. So just listening to them, Brendan Schaub said going into the fifth, he said this fight could go either way, and I think Eddie Bravo said if someone lands a knockdown, it was either Brendan or Eddie, someone said whoever gets a knockdown, or if there is a knockdown in this round, that's who's going to win the fight, because that fight was so close. So the judges needed something definitive to be able to call that fight. Well, sure enough, Thompson gets caught with a big, big left hook from Darren Till, knocks him down, stuns him. Darren Till played it safe and, stood right back up. I think he took his back at one point, then just got back up and, kind of coasted. And then you get in the last 10 seconds and, you hear like you do in MMA, you hear the big clap, right? And both guys just kind of look at each other. From Darren Till's standpoint, I get that. I mean, he had a big knockdown, and with his confidence, of course he thought he was winning that fight. And I thought he was winning that fight too. But for Stephen Thompson, with 10 seconds left, and I don't know what his corner was telling him, but it was a close fight. Wonderboy said that he thought he clearly had 4 rounds. So I'd like to know what his corner was telling him, because that doesn't sound right at all. I mean, if I'm in that guy's corner, I'm telling him, hey, you might have 4 rounds, but you might only have 1. And I know that sounds crazy, but you have to go back and watch that fight. So, good for Darren Till. It sucks for Stephen Thompson. I'm a fan of both those guys. The big winner here is the UFC. The UFC, I don't think, wanted Stephen Thompson to win that fight, because they're proven to be reluctant to make that Woodley, who's the champion, fight against Wonderboy, because the last time they fought, it was kind of a snooze fest, kind of a boring fight. So they don't want to do that again. So good for Till. What's next for Till? He actually said, in his post-fight interview, Jesus, I've listened to that non-stop. It's so inspiring. He just gets on there and is cursing, calling people cunts. He's saying, I don't care who's next. I don't want a title fight next, because he just wants to fight everyone in that division. Man, that's an interesting guy. He missed weight, yes. He missed weight by 2.5, 3 pounds, which we found out later why he missed weight is because his girlfriend was giving birth, or in the hospital to give birth to his child, when she was having some serious child labor issues. So, all right, did he miss by a few pounds? Yes. It sucks. It's the first time he's missed weight. That's a decent reason to miss weight. If I was in that position too, I'd say, fuck this weight cut, footwork, whatever I'm doing. Screw that. I got to be there for my kid and my girl. So, weird circumstances, but damn good fight. Very, very technical. Not as brutal as I thought the fight would be. I thought for sure it would end by some kind of KO, TKO. But damn good fight. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. All right, now to get into some current events. Not a whole lot. I guess I'm just going to dive right into these. So I guess there's some talks of Conor and Khabib going on that Dana is very, very high on. I'm not getting my hopes up yet. I don't Khabib and someone from his team is saying that deal is as good as done. I'm not believing that until I actually see those guys both make weight. Well, Conor doesn't have to worry about making weight. Khabib does. But I'm worried about Conor actually taking the deal. I guess it's good that there's something happening. Then Dana White saying in the UFC Liverpool post-fight interviews that The Ultimate Fighter this might be the last season. Not this one, but the next one. Jesus, I hope so. I love the show. It's the only show that I refer to at work as my show, but it's run its course, man. I don't think really anyone's viewing The Ultimate Fighter anymore. I think I'm a part of that weird few guys that's still watching it, so it doesn't make sense, especially with the new ESPN deal that they signed, $1.5 billion for 5 years. I don't know if they're going to move The Ultimate Fighter over, but signing that huge TV deal is the way to go with ESPN. I don't know if they're going to bring that over. Then Nick Diaz got arrested for some domestic battery, something. We don't know the details, but I'm telling you now, let the justice system run its course. Look, if he really did beat up that girl and then fought 12 cops, he deserves to go to prison. But there's a lot of crazy bitches out there that do some crazy shit. So, especially if you're a big figurehead like Nick Diaz. And from the guys that I listen to, the guys that I know, he's a sweetheart. And you know what? The big thing right here, man, this made me happy but broke my heart at the same time. I got a little bit emotional. Mike Bisping announced his retirement on the Believe in Me podcast, which is Mike Bisping and Luis J. Gomez. It's their podcast. I'm a huge fan of those guys. Announced his retirement. I think Michael Bisping strategically placed this. I don't know if this is just chance, but the night after Darren Till, an English guy wins and kind of takes that torch from Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping being the only British champ in UFC history. Now Darren Till, the next Brit coming up, doing big things. So I don't know if it was just by chance that he announced his retirement on his podcast right after this fight, but man, Mike Bisping, man, he's done everything. He beat the consensus greatest of all time in Anderson Silva. He knocked out Luke Rockhold on 2 weeks' notice. He beat Dan Henderson. He fought GSP. He lost that fight, but he looked great until then. And GSP is in the top 3 greatest of all time. When you're talking, maybe top 5, but he's been there. He's done it all. He was the Ultimate Fighter Season 3 winner. He's been in the UFC since 2006. He is one of my favorite fighters, if not my favorite fighter in the UFC that I grew up watching him. I hated him when I was a kid because my dad hated him. But Dad, you're wrong on that one. So good for Bisping. I'm a huge fan of his. Always will be. I and myself and the whole mixed martial arts community wishes him the absolute best of luck in whatever comes next for him. Now let's talk some UFC Utica. It's in New York. So let's talk a few fights here that I'm interested in. We've got Bilal Muhammad versus Chance Rencontre. Chance Rencontre is an ex-Bellator guy, I believe. Bilal Muhammad hasn't looked great lately, but in this one I'll take Muhammad via second round TKO. Then we have Nick Lentz versus David Taymor. David Taymor is a stud. He's an awesome kickboxer. I'll take David Taymor via third round KO. Sijara Eubanks versus Lauren Murphy. Both are Ultimate Fighter alumni. I will take Sijara. She should have been in the finale, but she missed weight or sickness or something. But I'll take Sijara Sarge Eubanks by unanimous decision. Then John Vellante versus Sam Alvey. This is in New York. John Vellante is obviously the hometown favorite here. Sam Alvey called him out about 5 months ago. I'll take John Vellante split decision. I think it's kind of a boring fight, to be honest. Both guys. Sam Alvey has a bunch of power, but John Vellante has power, but kind of tends to not pull the trigger at times. But because of the hometown, I think John Vellante probably gets it done. Then we've got Jake Ellenberger versus Ben Saunders, a couple of old school vets. Jake Ellenberger, gosh, he's looked rough lately. But I will take, I'll take Ben Saunders. Sure, I'll take him by TKO or KO. Not really sure on that one, but that'll be a fun one. This whole card is just, it's good. It's the dark horse, really, of the fight nights this year so far. I didn't really pay too much mind to it until I looked at the whole fight card about 2 days ago, and I said, holy crap, there's some really good fights on here. So, Jimmy Rivera versus Marlon Moraes. Holy crap, this is a tough one to pick. I think Jimmy Rivera's, he's only lost one fight, and I think he's won like 20 in a row. Marlon is the bigger guy, coming off that big knockout win over Aljamain Sterling. But I'm going to take Jimmy Rivera here. I don't know how. I guess I'll say unanimous decision, goes past the 5th round, goes to the decision. I'll take Jimmy Rivera. I won't be surprised if Marlon Moraes knocks him out because he has some serious explosive power. But I will take Jimmy Rivera in that one. Love both those guys, though. So, that covers really everything this episode. My last episode, I talked to David Feldman. He's the Bare Knuckle Boxing CEO. So the fights that I just covered in Utica happen on Friday. On Saturday, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship happens on June 2nd. So we've got Friday and Saturday fights going on. So please check out Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. If you haven't got to listen to their story, go back, just listen to that interview. You can fast forward through the rest. I don't really care. You already know the results of all of that, so I don't care if you guys don't listen to that. Just listen to David Feldman. He's awesome. Oh, also, thank you guys. I just checked our overall downloads, so just on Apple, really just Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and Google Play, we just passed 200 and something downloads. That does not include YouTube, doesn't include any of that. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for the continued support. And until next time, guys, be good to each other. Cheers.